And you are listening to CKUT. We are doing Upstage, the show about theater on the radio. I'm your host, Sarah Day. We were just listening to, if you were wondering what we're listening to, we're listening to Loft Jazz, the 11th compilation of the Jazz Music Festival in Montreal. I'm not sure which track we were listening to. Track number 4, No Zen by El Loco. That's a good name for a song. I like that. I think the first song we played was called The Hamster, Neil?
Hamster song.
The Hamster song. It didn't sound like a hamster song. When I heard you say that, I was like, oh, that sounds good.
It sounded childish.
It sounded childish. It did. I'm glad we cut it when we did, though. I have here with me 3 talented students from McGill. They're here to talk to us about the McGill Drama Festival, which is a festival that does plays written by students and directed by students and featuring students, which is totally awesome. And here to tell me a little bit more about it is Dane Stewart. And actually, I'll introduce everybody. Hi, Dane.
Hi.
And also here's Becca Pearl, who is directing The Taxman's Visit, and Tabia Lau, who has written Soft Shoes. So welcome to the show, guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah.
A little shy. It's okay. We'll get it started out. The jazz music didn't work, but we'll just, it's okay. So, Dane, you're the coordinator for the McGill Drama Festival. I've kind of given a little summary of it. Can you tell me more about how it works?
Yes, I definitely can. So we've already had 2 shows. This year we're doing 7 student-written plays, and they're all playing at Players Theatre in the SMU building on the McGill campus. And they're, as you said before, they're all written by students, directed by students, performed by students. It's just this wonderful initiative for student-driven theater on a campus which doesn't offer that big of a performance base in like the academic side. Like you can't take too many classes in performance or in playwriting. Mm-hmm. So I mean, this gives people that opportunity outside of class.
It's really interesting you should mention that, because I'm at Concordia. We have a theater department where people can go and perform and direct and set design and all that. But it always seems to me like there's more student theater, independent student theater going on at McGill than there is at Concordia. Would you say that's accurate? I mean,
I would think that's accurate, only to fill the void, to fill that void. And I've talked to a few people who go to Concordia but aren't studying theater, who have found it maybe a little bit more difficult to get involved in the theater community because they aren't studying it. So I know there are a few people who've come and acted in plays on the McGill campus because I guess we're so wide open to that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. So how does that process go? Like, who decides which shows are going to get chosen? Who picks up? Who gets to decide the directors?
Well, I'm overseeing everything. So I put out the call for play submissions, and we had 27 play submissions this year. And then I formed a reading committee of 5 students from various backgrounds, some involved in theater and some who aren't involved at all. And they just read the plays, selected their favorites, and we met and chose based on their choices.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how that kind of runs
Mm-hmm.
down to it. Is there any kind of theme? You've got a lot of plays. I guess that's 7 or 8 of them? 7.
7. Yes.
We totally have that number in front of us. There's no guesswork here. Is there a theme kind of running through all of them?
There's no particular theme because we just chose the plays that the reading committee liked the most.
Okay.
So they aren't really thematically linked, which is maybe a good thing because, I mean, it's given us the opportunity to create lineups which contrast with each other and I think create a more interesting night in total.
Okay, so we have 2 people in studio, obviously, to tell us a little bit about their plays. So, Becca, you directed The Taxman's Visit. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course I can. The Taxman's Visit is starring Emily Murphy, Connor Roth, David Armstrong, and Haley Carroll. And they are my 4 wonderful actors. They're doing such a great job. We had our opening night last night. And a little summary of the play. It's this hilarious combination of events that somehow string themselves together in the form of an upper-class British family trying to solve their financial difficulties. And I'm so honored to have been able to work on it with all these wonderful, talented people.
It's great because you're kind of beaming right now. You can tell it's a good experience.
Yeah, it's been very valuable for me as a first-time director, especially.
Okay.
I applied not really knowing what I was getting into, knowing that I wanted to try sitting, on the other side of things, being the one putting things together instead of being on stage. And I think MDF was the perfect platform to experiment with that, because it's such an open environment and very welcoming to newcomers and different levels of experience.
Do you think you would have attempted directing if it weren't for the kind of, I guess, it seems like a pretty informal experience. Like you said, you can kind of come in and try something new, right? If you didn't have that, do you think you would have tried directing? Or
maybe eventually, but I don't see any other opportunity at McGill that would have suited my needs quite like MDF did.
So your play sounds pretty ambitious, 4 actors, doing British accents too, and what sounds like a pretty complicated plot. So did it feel like an ambitious project taking it on?
A little bit. I think for me, casting was kind of challenging, because I like to see the potential in everyone, and eventually you just kind of have to say, no, this person's the best. I think the staging of it was a little bit of a challenge as well, just because Players has an interesting layout. There's 2 audiences kind of on adjacent sides of the stage, so that was a challenge for me as well, kind of putting it on the stage. I don't know, it was fun to muddle through it, though. I'm so glad to have done it.
That's a good verb to use, to muddle through it. Were you doing your own set design?
Yes, it was a team effort, me and my wonderful stage manager, Fee Nowak.
Okay, so you guys kind of tackle that together.
Yeah.
Okay, and Tabia, so you wrote the show Soft Shoes. Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
Sure. Soft Shoes is basically about 2 superheroes. One of them has the ability to control fire, and one of them has the ability to fly. And they've been they've been enemies all their lives. And now, for inexplicable reasons, the end of the world has arrived, and they have a chance encounter in Paris. And it's basically about how they just run into each other, and they're sort of forced together, and they sort of sit through the last moments of the world together. Wow, that's really interesting sounding. That's very different, because normally I think sometimes you think student theater and you think stories about, roommates or big plays by students about students, but here we have a British family and you've got 2 superheroes watching the end of the world. It's different. That's different. It's interesting. Do you do any special effects? I can't help but ask. Do you do any special effects for the superhero who can fly and the one who can control fire? I had thought of maybe writing that in, but then I thought maybe that would be sort of difficult to write in. I eventually just ended up writing sound effects for the storm that's surrounding them. Okay. And I actually just handed off all creative control in terms of props and sounds to the director, however way she wanted to design the end of the world, however way she finds it's best to represent these superheroes as superheroes. I didn't write any costume design either, so it's really been handed off to Jessica, who's directing it, and she's done a phenomenal job. It looks and sounds incredible. That's awesome. So yeah, you kind of had a more boxy role, I guess, being the writer and just seeing it come to life. Was that angst-inducing at all? Because it's like handing over your baby, right, and seeing someone else take it over. What's really great about MDF is that you work with students and you're a student yourself, and so there are meetings right when you hand over the script, and we had a couple of meetings in early January where we went through some discussion, and we went through some rewrites of what I think the play is about, what she thinks the play wants to be about, and we sat down and we really had a real conversation, and we managed to get on the same page. And I think, yeah, once you get through the kinks and you work it out together, it's very easy to hand it over to a director, because they're passionate and wonderful, and and yeah, as a writer, at some point, it's part of the fun to let go and see someone interpret it. Right. Is this the first story that you've written that you've seen staged? I actually was involved with MDF last year, where I also wrote a play called 5 Minutes, which was about 2 university students who were working on a psychology paper about social interaction, and they end up stopping the elevator they hijack the control room and they end up stopping the elevator between floors and observing how the two people inside, or three people inside, interact with each other.
Oh, sounds like a good experiment.
It's pretty manipulative.
It is pretty manipulative, but fun.
Yeah, it is.
At the same time. And what made you want to write about superheroes this time?
I just love superheroes. I've always really just absolutely loved the idea of people having abilities, because in the end there's nothing really super about them. They're just normal people trying to get on the way that we are, but they have this extra amount of awesome. Yes. They have this
awesome.
they have an extra amount of abilities, and in that way they have so much more responsibility. And I think it's so exciting and interesting to see how they deal with everything that is expected of them.
Are you a big fan of all those superhero movies and reboots that have come out in the last couple of years?
I mean, I'm a huge nerd in the way that I watch absolutely every single superhero movie that comes out, but my favorite, unfortunately, has peaked at Spider-Man 2.
I think Spider-Man 4 is going to be great. Andrew Garfield is in it. He's a terrific actor. No, she's currently nodding her head no. She's like, it's not going to happen.
I'm sorry.
Well, next year maybe you'll do MDF again, and we'll rehash this out, and we'll decide how good Spider-Man 4 was.
There we go.
Okay, deal.
Right.
Okay. So yours was put on the first night of the festival, the 29th.
It was.
How was the reception?
The reception was great. Jessica, and the two actors, Ben and Lucille, they ended up making it into this really, really great, quirky interaction between the two, and it's so easy to fall in love with them. And I mean, I'd like to think that the audience definitely just really absolutely loved them. And unfortunately, at the end, when the end of the world comes, you're very sad to see them go.
Okay. So there is the end. The world does end.
It does, yeah. The end of the play is the end of the world, yeah.
It's too bad. But I guess every time it ends, it's always the end of the world. Not so if it's a superhero movie franchise, the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's so many plays, and they're going to be running until the 9th. So Dane, what do people do if they want to see all of them?
If you want to see all of them, you have two options. You can come out to the separate lineups. We have 3 lineups, and they keep running this week, tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday. All shows start at 8. Box office opens at 7. Tickets are $5 for students and $8 for adults, or $13 for a festival pass, which will get you into every show once. And then they continue running next week from Tuesday to Friday, and also on Saturday we have the round robin, where all 7 plays will be performed back to back between the hours of 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. So that's exciting as well.
That sounds like a huge marathon to have those all together.
It is. And we're also, the goal with the round robin is sort of to unite the McGill theater community, because it's so student driven. Like, there are all these different groups that don't often perform together. So between the shows, we're having little interludes performed from the other shows from this past year. So we'll have groups come in and perform like 5-minute skits from their shows.
That sounds fantastic. So that's April 9th from 3 to 10.
Yes.
And the tickets are an awesome price, $5 if you're a student, $8 if you're an adult. And the McGill Drama Festival runs until throughout this week until April 9th. Thank you so much for coming to join us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.